Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, CollectiveCon. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of CollectiveCon, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Ooh. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Oh my goodness. Only at CollectiveCon. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at CollectiveCon this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at CollectiveCon that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at CollectiveCon, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show. In this episode of The Short Box.
Like, for me, Crashdown is it's horror sci-fi. So we're looking to ruffle some feathers and make you feel not great sometimes. I'm hoping that there's peeps who are like, yo, I read that comic. It's a little messed up. I'm excited about the next issue. You know, like, through a comic, it's kind of tough. You know, when you're watching a movie, you got sounds coming at you and suspense and quick shots. And in a comic, you're seeing the whole page at once. So it's challenging. But if it's messed up enough, it lands in a way that you can't even experience in the theater.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Short Box Podcast.
Season 9.
What's up, dude?
Yo, check that shit out.
About to drop that comic book talk show that brings you the best.
Shortbox Podcast is recorded live from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yo, Shortbox Nation, welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad to be dropping some new content. I know these last 2 weeks have been Shortbox classic episodes and Patreon previews, but we got something new for everyone today. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. My name is Botter, and this is episode 415. And today I've got two household names, two big names from the comic YouTube podcast world on the show with us. Most of you probably recognize the voice from the snippet in the intro as belonging to the one and only ComicTom, which shouldn't really come as a surprise considering the millions of views and thousands of subs he's amassed through his YouTube channel ComicTom 101 and his podcast Bags and Boards. But we're also joined by his right-hand man and co-host Fire Guy Ryan. And they're not on the show to talk about YouTube per se, but a brand new original horror sci-fi comic series they got coming out through Whatnot Publishing today. Actually, yes, today. You can go into a local comic shop right now and find issue 1 of their new comic series, Crashdown, in shops right now. And we'll hear from them about how the book was made, working with Ben Templesmith, and all that good stuff very shortly. But first, I'd like to get some very quick housekeeping out the way. You may have heard the new promo spot in the beginning, but I'd like to formally acknowledge that the Short Box is once again partnering up with CollectiveCon this year to not only promote the show, but also help them make this year's event the best one possible. I mean, this year is their 10-year anniversary. For those of you that don't know, CollectiveCon is Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention. It's one that I'm always looking forward to going because it's a good time all the time. Just a reminder, go ahead and get your tickets right now. We got links to that in the show notes. And speaking of sponsors and partners, I want to give a big shout out to our friends, our comic family at Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier shop for comics, toys, collectibles, and more. And thank you to everyone that reached out with such positive praise and words about the episode with Ben, the owner of Gotham City Limited. If you haven't heard that episode yet, go back to episode 414, so the one that was dropped early this month, and give that one a spin. I promise it's well worth your time if you like hearing passionate people talk about comics, which would explain why you're here today, why most of you are here today, and that's not to hear me pay bills or suck up to the sponsors. So without further ado, let's get this show started. Shortbox Nation, let's welcome our guests of honor today. That's right, guests. That's plural, because we got two fantastic guests for you today. We've got the host of the ComicTom 101 YouTube channel, and they can now add comic writers to the resumes because at the time of this episode, the first issue of the original comic book Crashdown is in shops today. The series is illustrated by highly decorated and multi-award winning comic artist Ben Templesmith and is being published by Whatnot Publishing. Shortbox Nation, let's welcome Tom Garcia and Ryan Sargent to the show. Tom, Ryan, welcome.
Otter, it's great to see you. Thank you for having us, taking time out of your day. It's very exciting. You know, we're recording this before the release, but I can only imagine our excitement and our enthusiasm at the time of this release is at an all-time high.
It's going to be a very different world next Wednesday.
This episode comes out on the big debut day, so I'm going to go ahead and retroactively or however futurely say congratulations on the release of Crashdown. I have been watching the videos. I've seen the clips on YouTube. YouTube and Instagram. I'm loving the promo and all the work you guys have done building up to it. And this is like the ultimate podcasters, comic content creator podcasters dream to have their own comic book. So I applaud you guys for making it happen, man.
Yeah, we appreciate the love. We've had so much support. It's been outstanding, and it's been a long ride. We've delayed the book a little bit, but for good reason. We've been able to expand it, make it a larger and even better story than what we even imagined at first. And yeah, we're just hitting the ground running. We have a lot of ideas, and I want to speak for you, Ryan, but I feel like this is just the start. I feel like I got bit by the bug, I'm constantly in this creative mode now, and I'm thinking of new stories. I'm thinking of volume 2 already, which I don't want to get ahead of myself because, hey, we got to have a successful volume 1 first, but,
sure.
But, it's definitely something that I didn't think would be here so soon. It's definitely a dream of mine to have a comic book.
I second all of that.
I didn't give you permission to talk, Ryan.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
There you go.
Tom told me if I did good, he said if I did good in the interview, then I could have one extra snack today.
Yeah, I've been very blessed with my career in comic books, and I've been able to work with some of my best friends, and I've known Ryan way before the YouTube channel, way before Instagram, way before I even had like a social media presence at all. So what you see is what you get, because we just have extended our lives and welcome the comic community to just be spectators and be part of it.
The marketing has been on point. You guys obviously are used to promoting videos and your own content, cutting clips, and being active on social and learning the algorithms and things like that. I'm assuming that was probably, would you say marketing the comic book was maybe the easiest step when you consider the entire creative process, considering all the work you already put into the channel and promoting that?
That's a good question.
I love that question, actually.
I'll say none of it's easy. Like, really. I mean, if anything, going through this process I already had the utmost respect for everyone involved in comic creation because I'm privy to a lot of it. I work with a lot of artists. I'm a rep of Johnny Desjardins, we work with the industry leaders and publishers, and I'm friends with almost all of them. So I had a lot of insight. So I knew I was prepared. But starting and actually going through it, oh my goodness, there's so many curveballs. There's so many due dates. There's so many things you got to think 5 steps ahead. And I would say no, there wasn't really anything. It was all hard. It still is hard, and it's a lot of fun. I think that we were equipped with the marketing though, not because we knew what to do, because we had to go into and plan it just like anything else. And maybe because we're good at planning things because of our show, that could help. But really, the thing that made it easy is that we make a lot of variant covers. We work with a lot of publishers, and we work with a lot of other stores. So for me, I thought about this if there was another, if I was working with an IP, a brand new IP that was all risk, because it's brand new. We're the first time writers, we think we made something awesome. You know, I hope it's great. At this point, we've been spending so much time on it. We may have made something totally just dog shit. I don't know, but I think it's great. I think the community's going to love it, and I'm really excited about it. But the way I looked at the marketing was like, this is how I wish a comic book would be marketed that I was investing in. And from the ground up, it was about empowering anyone who wanted to support us. You'll notice that all the Crashdown variants that are coming out had a minimum print count of 100, which is basically unheard of in ongoing comic books, and that was purposeful. I'm not looking to make money off of my supporters or my friends. I'm looking to support them because they're going to support us by marketing and being along for the ride of our creation that we put over a year into. And through that, that was actually pretty easy. What would I like if I was taking a risk and trying to help someone who was supporting, I was supporting their IP, and maybe I looked at them as a friend or a colleague. So we went out of our way to curate covers. We went out of our way to make sure that those cover deals were great and that we didn't profit off of our stores who were backing us. We went out of our way to make sure that things were received before a convention like MegaCon, which is going to be the big debut. We went through specialty printing to make sure that they were done to a higher level of quality than when you go through a giant printing house that things go wrong because there's thousands of books being dealt. We paid for better card stock. We every step of the way, just like our YouTube channel, we reinvest into it. And in this case, we're reinvesting into our supporters. And that's a big part of the marketing is the supporters of our fellow retailer stores, et cetera. But then obviously LCS is primary number one. They're the ones who are taking the biggest risk in ordering across the country and out of country. So doing interviews like this, of course, is kind of this is, what is expected of us, but we did a lot. We did way more. I think we've probably marketed Crashdown more than I think any independent comic that we've covered since the start of our YouTube channel. I could be wrong, but I think we did a damn good job.
And I feel like we're just scratching the surface. As the person behind the scenes who is typing these posts out and hitting the button and sharing them all, it's like we've got a lot more on deck. So if you do enjoy these little teaser clips and showing off the covers that we have on deck, then stay tuned.
For our listeners, I'm going to have links to Crashdown as well as preview images of those. So all of that will be linked in the episode show notes, as well as where you can go ahead and pre-order and buy the comic as well. But great opening statements. And that is essentially what my compliment was, that seeing the enthusiasm and the level, the volume of content, I could tell now these guys really care about this project and they're putting their all into marketing it. Because I feel like marketing in comic books that's definitely an area that could be improved upon.
Dude, can I say something about that real quick?
Yeah, hit it.
There's so many opinions about why the comic community is the way it is. Fill that in for whatever is important to you as it pertains to comics being ordered at LCSs and people picking up their comics. And the more that happens, the more comics get created at the publishers, the more teams that assemble to create these comics. There's multiple people. Every IP that Marvel and DC and Image produce is its own micro business. And then the publisher is the umbrella, and then the LCSs, it's just a lot of people that have to coordinate to make something that comes out monthly via a dead medium, paper. What? It doesn't even make sense. So we're lucky that it even exists at all. There's a lot of things that could be said of what could be better. Narratives, who's writing it, what they care about and what they're putting into the comic. Sure.
You mentioned cardstock earlier. Even the damn pages themselves you're reading, half the time you rip through them because they're like tissue paper. You get ink smudging on your fingers and you just feels like you're holding a cheap product that nobody cares about on the back end.
Yeah, we're talking about something you can read digitally if you really wanted to. So I think the number one thing that I wish was more of a critique and that people talked about at least first before any other opinion is marketing. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that Marvel DC have their plates full and they can't market much more than what they're doing. And then on top of that, the LCSs, if you are friends with an LCS owner, their plate is more than full. Most of these people are working 50, 60 hours a week, and they do it because they love it, not because they're, backing up the truck. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, then you have the creators, right? And then it all falls on the creators. What are the creators' job? To create the best thing they can. And to have someone who's amazing at art, who sits at a desk and at times some artists. I work with artists that it takes days to make one cover. You know, that's why the variant market's so damn cool. You know, you have like someone like I mentioned, Johnny Desjardins. It'll take sometimes over a week to finish a oil painting, right? You have writers, and they put all their effort, and it takes a lot of time. I remember hearing and having conversations with Donnie Cates where it's like, what is he doing what was he doing at conventions? Well, at 1 or 2 in the morning, he's downstairs, people taking shots of him while he's on his laptop writing because it's 2 a.m. and there's 5 people waiting to start their job, waiting for him to do his job. So he's focused on that. So where's the marketing? Whose job is it to market? Well, I mean, we got a tiny channel, yo. We're like 60,000. We're tiny. We're a little bit. And we made a name for ourselves because we market comics because we talk about them. And like it's like the comic community, you know? It's like all of us kind of come together and we fill that role that's so desperately needed. But let's not get it twisted. It's desperately needed. And without it, nothing happens. And I would argue that it's whatever critique people have about comics, until marketing is dialed in a way where there's any level of production and any level of content coming out that any other social media platform would require, that's 50+% of the battle. Nothing else really matters. People got to know that the comics exist.
I want to go see Aquaman in the theater, and before the movie comes out, I want to see a trailer and says, go read The Trench, Aquaman The Trench, Jeff Johns, Jim Lee, New 52. It's badass. Here's some pages. Here, make a cool little clip. Throw it up before the movie. Get the people who are going there to see your movie, however few of them there may have been. That's your solution in my mind. I feel like you got so many people, at least you used to, going to see these movies in the theater who were primed to maybe get a little comic book dangled in front of their eyes while they're sitting there watching previews for Fast and Furious or what other Jason Statham movies coming out. You know, get them a book. This stuff is all based on stuff.
You can't critique Aquaman when you can't answer the question, why does Aquaman... Okay, you kind of can answer the question because Aquaman is a bad example, my man, but why could a box office movie come out and that have no fluctuation in the comic market beyond collectibles? You know, I'm talking about just going to an LCS. It's like until that question could be answered and not by, the writer of the month or the writer of the series and whatever it is. Like, so many things you can critique, but like the main thing is like if a movie can't do it, there is so many bigger problems as it pertains to marketing that everything else is kind of, in my opinion, and I don't mean to like ruffle feathers, I think it's nonsense.
Yeah, you know what? I seen a tweet that's a little bit related to this morning about the idea of comic books. And they were like, can you imagine any other medium where you go and buy one chapter of a book every single week or a month? You know, just how deranged that kind of concept is. It's got me thinking the time that we do have for this interview is not long enough for all the things I would like to pick your brains about. So I'm going to pivot to my next topic, which is really kind of taking a step back. Since this is both of your first time on the Short Box, I want to give folks a kind of an idea of who you guys are and where you're at. Is it safe to say you guys are both in Washington State?
That's right. The Evergreen State.
Okay, Evergreen.
Best place in the world to live.
I mean, you know,
I have the data.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Florida would like to have a little conversation about that, but I'm not going to argue too much.
Florida? You just said Florida? That was a funny joke, my man. That's a funny joke. This guy over here having to like run from gators and stuff. He's like, this place is popping.
Look,
how those jellyfish in the ocean?
Run from them.
I got stung by a jellyfish once in Florida. Never got over it. Yo, I got family in Florida. My grandma lives down there. She had to replace her roof twice because of freaking hurricanes. You know, last time I dealt with a hurricane in Washington? Never.
What's the temperature? What's the temperature like in Washington right now?
You gotta wear a coat. You gotta wear a coat.
Most of the year.
It's a little chilly. It's a little chilly right now. It may be snowing a little bit right now. I may lose power.
Look, trade-offs.
You know.
What I want to know by bringing up that question is, what is the comic scene like in your, whether it be neighborhood, your city, your state? Like, what is the comic book scene like there? If I was to come do a trip to Washington and I had to mark off like some essential go visit, you know, comic book spots or do comic book things, what would you recommend?
Well, one, we got Emerald City out here. Okay. It's going to be next month.
Actually, Comic-Con?
Yeah, Comic-Con. Okay. Yeah, we got, it's a good, Emerald City, right? We have issue 2 coming out in February. It's the week of Emerald City.
Okay.
Comic-Con. Awesome convention. And so much like comic supporters. Growing up here, I know pretty much every major retailer, and they run their businesses in such amazing ways that they've definitely like You know, they're all mentors in some ways since I've known them for so long. I mean, a lot of these guys have been doing this since I was a teenager, right? So you have some amazing stores. We actually had Sammy from Skeleton Key. They came up for a drop, right? And we're like, hey, let's like show her around to our regular stops. We were in the car for maybe 2 hours and we hit like 9 shops, 8 shops. Like it was like there's a comic store in like every city out here, pretty much. And if there's not a comic store, there's an antique store with a comic section because someone rented out an area and they keep their comics going, you know? I would say it's a really strong presence out here. There's a lot of people who like to read out here too. And I think that's that's also another important
We're also
thing.
pretty close to Portland, which in my mind is like comic mecca, you know, and you got so many publishers and, you know, creators that are headquartered out of there.
If I recall correctly, I think, you know, some of the names that come to mind when I think Portland, I think like Brian Michael Bendis is out there. I think
Joshua Williamson's out there too.
Joshua Williamson. Yeah, it's like, to Ryan's point, I have heard it is like a mecca. So, you know what? All right, maybe I'm giving a little more credit to Washington being one of the best states out there. All right, you had me at 9 shops in 2 hours. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a good time, man.
Tom, I've heard your story before in regards to your first conscious exposure to comics. It sounds like, from my understanding, you've kind of grown up with comics. Your father owned a comic shop, and you guys lived above the shop, right?
He was a manager of the shop, yeah.
Manager. Okay, got
it. He managed it. You know, you wouldn't want him running the shop back then. or ever, maybe. I don't know. No, he was good at it. But yeah, you want the quick rundown?
Yeah, give me the quick rundown. I don't want to assume that, like, you know, that was your first conscious exposure, but like, do you recall maybe like that one particular title or book or moment where it was like, okay, I'm in this for life. I'm a fan.
Oh, snap. Oh, I learned how to read with comics. Like that was like, I struggled with reading. I don't know. I probably have a little bit of like ADHD or maybe even like a little bit of dyslexia. I don't know. My problem is like, if I'm reading a standard book, unless it's like a nonfiction book, by the time I get halfway through a page, I'm like gone. I'm like, what did I just read? I read it, but I did not retain anything. So it was a real struggle in my youth, when I was a Ute, right? My cousin Vinny, right? So,
shout out.
So quickly, my dad's like, oh, well, let's read comic books together. So I pretty much learned how to read comics, learned how to read with comics. And I grew up with Bone, and I grew up with, reading different like JLA. My dad was a big Vertigo guy, so I was definitely introduced to some more mature stuff than I should have been. Whenever there was stuff at school, and they're like, you have to bring something to read for a reading time, etc. My dad would always be like, just grab a graphic novel, and if they give you any crap about that, tell them they can call me, and I'll tell them that this is what I want my kid to read. So when teachers would be like, oh, you can't read Hellblazer, you need to read a real book. And I'm like, it is a real book. He gets cancer, and I got to figure out how he's going to get out of this.
Can I tell you what I brought to school reading day that I also got in trouble for because I didn't discover comics until like college?
Dude, you can't bring porn to school, Ryan.
Yeah, a little bit is okay. No, it's a little. There's a story in here.
You got to read past the imagery.
That's right. There's a whole narrative.
He loves Greg Horn.
Oh, I do. No, but for me,
not Greg
it was
Horn.
like,
excuse me, not Greg Horn.
I get them mixed up too.
Who
Greg Land?
Greg Land?
I don't know which one's
oh my
which.
God. Love Greg Horn. Did not mean to say Greg Horn. Greg Land.
But Greg Horn is also known for all of his very steamy sexual covers, so that would have worked too.
Yeah.
I brought the Kingdom Hearts strategy guide to class and read that and failed.
I hope I can consolidate that. Yeah, that creepy ass the soundbite. That is good. That's gonna be.
That's why we got separate mic tracks. I can talk all over him.
Ryan, what was your first exposure to comics? You said not until college?
Yeah, not really until college. I did like the Borders Books hangout. I would sit in a chair and, read Ultimate Spider-Man like in high school a couple times. Yeah. It was fine, but I didn't really even know that like these came out in single issues month over month. And comics were just completely off my radar.
Do you remember any of the comics that like stuck with you that you did experience for the first time at Borders? Like I read Old Man Logan for the first time.
It was Ultimate Spider-Man. I read volume 1 and I went back and I read as much as I could. And sometimes they put those little security stickers right in the middle of the book over a panel. And I would just like, take that off.
Lift it up.
No, I peel it off. I peel that sucker off. I'm like, I'll put it back on the cover of the book. I'll keep it on the book somewhere. One time I screwed up. It must have stuck on my shoe or something. The beeper went off on me when I went out the door.
Then Ryan ran. He just sprinted. Oh no!
Watching you two, interact and hearing you two talk has got me missing all of my co-hosts. Like I kind of miss having, a friend to like bounce off of. Tell me, how did you two meet? Like how did you guys form a friendship?
Well, I hired him.
Yeah, about a decade ago, I was working in the food court at the mall, and my mommy was like, "You need a big boy job," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm in my early 20s. I got to get out of this mall." And I liked working with numbers. I was meeting people face to face, working at a mall, so I figured I was decent enough with customer service. I applied at a bank, walked in for the interview, and it was this guy who was on the other side of the table, along with some other branch manager or something, but. I assumed that must have been like, oh, she brought her son to work today and dressed him up in a suit or something. Because this little 13-year-old looking kid is,
ma'am, I am
he's
the
boss
manager
of the bank. Yeah, that's how it went down.
Yeah, I was Mr. Manager. I was the youngest branch manager of Wells Fargo at one point. I got the job right when I turned 21. And yeah, I was just good at it. And I was managing people and I was hiring for tellers. And this guy came in and, he shared with us that what he liked to do in his downtime was read comic books and play video games. And I'm like, oh, cool. Because I was the person in charge. I would have, and you can attest to this, I would have all of my, you go to work, but you find out something's being shipped to you from eBay. And you're like, damn, I can't wait to go home. And I hope that they put it underneath the awning so it doesn't get rained on or I've been waiting on this. I've been, checking the tracking. So I realized, well, this is my branch.
I run this place.
I'm going to have this be my address. So I would have my comics. I would just shop all the time. And I would have them shipped to the branch. So they'd be like, oh, Tom, we got a package. I'm like, oh, cool. That's my collection I just bought. And then statues. I was also buying Gemmint style statues, right? So
that's when I get a little phone call at the teller line because I'm working. I'm managing people's transactions and stuff. And it's like, we need you over at the manager's desk.
I'm like, yeah, hey, bring me Ryan. I need Ryan. I need Ryan.
Business over here.
So Ryan would come over, and then other people would be like, oh, what's Ryan doing?
He's in trouble.
Tom's over there talking to him. And at first they're like, oh, why is he's doing coaching or is he in trouble? And then they got to the point where like, oh, Tom got some freaking comic books.
You should have been coaching me. I sucked at that.
You were really bad at it, dude. And I wasn't
my least favorite job I've ever had. I hated it so much.
It was a bad, dude. I'm not in that industry for a reason.
I lasted 6 months.
But I also had a Nintendo 64 in the back room and a Sega Genesis. So he's like, oh, I play video games. I'm like, dude, I love playing video games on my break. This could work. And then he also is like, oh, I have a Green Lantern tattoo. And I'm like, well, I got a Hellboy tattoo, dude. But
I have zero professional experience of any kind.
I'm like, you don't need it. I want a friend. So I hired him and we became good friends. And he wasn't the only person we met, through that time of my life. That wasn't the only person I met throughout that time of my life that's, around to this day. And yeah, when the channel started, we didn't hang out all that much, but whenever he did, it was really fun. But he's got his degree and he's a really good writer and he's just great creative. And
I ain't got no degree, man. I went to school. I didn't finish. I don't want you to put out fake news out there.
Dude, you don't have your degree?
No.
I actually thought
I went to hippie school, dude.
I thought you actually had your
degree. I didn't even have grades at that school.
Do you have your associates?
I don't have shit. I dropped out of there because the economic recession and stuff happened right at that time period, man. It was bad times.
We're going to have to dock your pay.
You can dock my pay.
Oh, my goodness. I've been paying you thinking you had a 4-year degree.
Scientist degree. That's right.
Holy smokes.
And the president of America.
Well, that tells you just how little schooling impacted me because this guy...
I write good.
Yeah, he writes really well. So, but yeah, early YouTube days, when I was doing the first couple of videos, I realized oh, snap, I need some help. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Maybe you can help me script a little bit. Maybe help me with my delivery and edit what I'm doing. And then really quickly, I'm like, this isn't as much fun as I thought it would be because it was so hard. I was learning Photoshop and Adobe and how to script. And at the time I had a teleprompter and I don't do that anymore. But at the beginning, I thought that's how you do this. So I quickly was like, you're right. You want to just sit in on a video and see how that goes. And it was it was a fun time. And I realized, oh wait, this could actually be really enjoyable. If we kind of dialed this in.
You had to convince me. I was very content to just be your a script proofreader and / I don't know, camera guy or something. I'll come over one time, I'll sit in this video. Okay, fine. This is a one-time thing. And then you're like, yeah, you need to get on Instagram because that's where all the comic fam is, all this stuff's on Instagram. I'm like, I got a Facebook, bro. I'm good. I don't need Instagram. You basically had to drag me to where I am now, but I'm appreciative.
I probably speak on behalf of the millions of views that you guys have, but I'm glad that you guys have found your voice in a solid operation. I know personally speaking, I might have got on board with the ComicTom 101 train around the pandemic time. So it's been really interesting to watch the channel grow, the success and the acclaim that you guys get. Ryan, you said in an interview that you pride yourself in doing, like just digging through previews, like the back issues, the bottoms of the listings, and
the scraps.
Yeah, the scraps, which I can totally respect because I'm a front to end kind of like preview reader myself. I'm always looking for the stuff that's off the beaten path. So if that said, how did it feel seeing Crashdown be listed in preview? I believe it was listed in previews for the first time in the June or July previews magazine. How did it feel like seeing
that? It's been a couple. We've gotten in there a couple times because we had a delay on our book, so it was in previews. I think the first 2 issues were in previews almost a year ago at this point when it was first solicited, and then it was delayed and then put in previews again. So we've been in previews a lot now. We're issue 3 is in the current catalog right now. I just flipped to it like yesterday when I was at the shop just to get a look. It still doesn't feel real. I don't know. I don't know when this is going to feel real. Probably by the time I get to read the actual comic myself.
Like Tom said, we are recording this, a couple of days before the release of issue 1. Where do you guys plan to be when issue 1 drops? Like, do you guys plan on celebrating in any way? Like,
oh, so we're going to be on Whatnot for hours. Like, we're going to be doing like a party. It's going to be a really cool time because it's like we're going to stream on YouTube, see the fam, hopefully bring in as many creators and individuals who are part and that we owe a lot of gratitude to, and hopefully they feature. We're going to have them feature on Whatnot and on YouTube, and we're going to be debuting the book. We're going to be signing books, and we're going to be providing them to the community and however they want to grab them. So it's gonna be a fun time. I'm kind of excited to see how Wednesday goes because I do want to make time to actually go to an LCS and
that
see
would be
if
cool.
There are any there too. So
we have a live stream on Thursday. We're going to talk about the book on Thursday too. So once it's actually out in people's hands, I'm excited to talk to people about the read itself. We've been kind of vague about it up until now because we're trying to keep it spoiler free until release day.
Well, how about this? To give folks an idea of what they can expect from the series and issue 1, I'm going to read the solicitation, and then I want to ask you guys a question about it here in a sec. So the solicitation for Crashdown number 1 reads, Tom Garcia and Ryan Sargent, which, Ryan, by the way, you've got like 2 badass names. You got a badass regular last name and then a badass nickname, Fire Guy Ryan. Tom Garcia and Ryan Sargent, the host of the ComicTom 101 YouTube channel with over 12 million views, team up with legendary horror artist Ben Templesmith for this 3-issue story of suspense and survival. Equal parts Lost and Alien with a Lovecraftian twist, Crashdown delivers a dark vision of our world's final days. The Earth is dead. Humanity's last hope is the distant planet Empyrean and the ship full of colonists ready to repopulate our civilization. But what happens when their new home doesn't want them there and it fights back? That's the solicitation there. My question is, what was the mission in writing this? Like, what audience... what reader, what consumer did you have in mind when you wrote this down, and how did the story, I guess, come about? Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
Me. I wanted to write the book I wanted to read. Like, if I was flipping through the catalog and I saw a book that said the word Lost in it, I'm ordering it. That's about it. If I see anything with tentacles or Lovecraftian stuff, I'm a sucker. I'll order it, and I might be disappointed more often than not. But there are certain things that I gravitate towards when it comes to storytelling, and I wanted to write the comic that I would like to read. And I think that's a solid piece of advice that a lot of creators get.
With any medium, really.
Yeah.
And make it for yourself. and then it's going to be the best it can be. And fortunately, this opportunity to bring it to press, it wasn't an opportunity first, and then we decided to make the book. No, this was already like conversations were happening. I'm friends with Ben Templesmith. He had been telling me for over a year, come on, man, let's make a book. And I'm like, I got these ideas. And I'm kind of like, I'm chilling with him. We're bouncing ideas off each other. And I had a handful of things I'm like thinking about doing. And I had some bad ideas. I had a freaking creepy, weird story that I don't think Whatnot would ever publish that I showed Ryan. And he's like, dude, you got some weird stuff going on in your head. Like, you know, I like horror, dude. Superheroes are cool. And I like a lot of DC stuff. And that's all great. But I'm a horror guy at heart. I like feeling disturbed. I like the feeling of, I really enjoy being able to read a comic and then having it linger afterwards. And there are stories that I think of like witches, for example, the witches that are in the trees, Scott Snyder goodness that Jock drew, that's going to be an animated horror series, by the way. It resonated so much with me that like I reread the book, and all throughout the year, I'll randomly think of that book, but I do that with a lot of horror as well. So yeah, we went into it like, well, we already know what we want to do, and we have a company that's willing to like work with us with this, and they're cool with horror. Let's go all in and let's see how much we can push it and like do something that we really want to do. So, fortunately we got like no pushback. They've been, it's honestly, I'm a little surprised that they let us do everything they wanted us to do. I was waiting for them to say, hey, maybe tone it down a little bit. We're like a multi-billion-dollar company and we're competing with eBay and blah, blah. No, we're splitting people in half in this comic, and they're like, whoa, that's cool.
Give us more of that, please.
I'm like, oh, this is freaking dope. Like, they really care about comics because they're like, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're backing indie creators and, helping us live our dream.
Speaking of Whatnot Publishing, I just realized that there's a little bit of like synergy going on here with this episode. Around this time last year, the first episode that we put out with the short box in 2023 was actually an interview with co-founder and co-publisher of Whatnot Publishing, Kevin Rodatelli, who also has a new original comic series coming out this year through Whatnot Publishing in March called Washed in Blood. It's being advertised as Black Mirror, a post-apocalyptic twist. You can actually get your pre-orders in for that right now if you're interested. So big shout outs to Kevin. I find it interesting that we got you guys on talking about a release coming out through there. I guess that leads me to a question here. Whatnot Publishing is a relatively, safe to say they're like a newcomer into the publishing world. Obviously, they're enjoying a lot of success. Those, that first year that they came out with all those pre-orders they were getting for like Quested and Liquid Kill, and, now they got Astrobots, now they've got Crashdown. What was the process like working with Whatnot Publishing? Like, it sounds like they gave you guys a lot of like clearance and a lot of leeway to do the things you wanted. Do you think like them being relatively new meant that they had a chance to maybe take more risks and, give you guys a lot more freedom?
Well, they're not relatively new. I think that's the first thing that I think may be a misconception.
How long have they been around?
Well, Whatnot Publishing is relatively new, but that's just an imprint.
Sure.
And Massive Publishing is the actual like distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Whatnot. It's like Skybound Image. Skybound may be newer than Image, but it is Image, right? Like they're the ones who handle
nestled
everything.
In there.
So Kevin Rodatelli, he's from like Behemoth days, Michael Calero, he's been making comics for years, and he's our editor, by the way. So like these guys knew what they were doing. All these comics that they brought to press with Whatnot Publishing as a banner and a collaborative effort with Whatnot. Now it was backed by industry professionals. So as far as their impact to what we did, it was like we're working with professionals. It was amazing. And then we had asked Michael Calero early on, like, yo, will you edit our book? Like, I know you're busy as hell. And he's like, dude, I freaking love Ben Templesmith. Let's do it. So we have someone who we just have so much talented individuals that we can seek advice from. And we did all along the way. So really like working with them was super easy. If anything, it's like the learning curve of creating the comic was the most difficult part. Deadlines and making sure that we have assets and that we figured this out in time for this. And don't forget about previews here. And, we're gearing up to like work on this thing, but you know what? You got to work on this thing first, and then you got to work on this thing, and then also be creative at the same time. It's really tough. But all along the way, we're working with people who like do this every day. And it was actually way simpler of a process on the creative side. Maybe because we're not as bad as we
might not be
are.
as bad of writers as we are, but there's so many small like things that you take for granted as a comic reader that like when you step on the other side of the of the page as it is, like you didn't use their names. Like that's a thing I keep bringing up in a lot of interviews we've talked about, but like that's a lesson that Tom and I learned the hard way, was that like when you're writing a script and you write a line of dialogue and it says Jack, oh man, let's go over here. Susie, okay, that's a good idea. When you're reading the book, people don't know the names Jack and Susie, but we wrote it down in the script. Those are placeholder names, by the way. We do not have characters named Jack and Susie. But regardless, stuff like that. You got to think about stuff like, while issue 1 is about to release, we are farther down the road, finalizing stuff for issue 3 and 4. We're proofreading issue 2, making sure all the stuff is ready for that, because we're about to switch into, issue 2 mode here in a minute. So like, we are having to put a lot of different hats on kind of at the same time. It's a fun challenge, though.
It sounds like these next few weeks are going to be jam-packed and busy, because, I mean, it sounds like the schedule is pretty much going to be on point with issue 2 in February, and then the series wraps up in March. So I imagine...
April.
Is that again?
4 issues. We got expanded to 4 issues.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was the second. So the first delay...
Okay, I didn't see that one.
The first delay was more of a,
That was a timing thing,
wasn't it? Yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff, and it had nothing to do with Crashdown, and had everything to do with just like,
logistics. And
we're working with companies, big companies, and it's got to be right. And they wanted to do it right. And you line things up for convention seasons, and then things change. So the first one was like, hey, we had an idea for a one shot, and they're like, hey, if we can get a one shot rolling, we just need a little bit more time, have a better launch. So we're like, yeah, well, we need more time because we want to gear up for a one shot. And then the second delay was like, well, our one shot's kind of more of an issue 4. If we can actually get issue 4 on the books.
We were going to do a 3-issue storyline with a one shot that came afterwards to like, do a solo story for a character, like a all flashback storyline, some kind of thing, a standalone one shot. And we realized like,
we did issue 3 script and we're like, damn, we could use another issue. Like, I feel like it's so hard.
Fast.
Like because we do, in order to like map, you have to map the whole thing out in the very beginning, we have to know what's going to happen in issue 4 at the end while we're writing issue 1. But the loose outline and then the rough draft, and then when you actually get to it and you have to commit, it's like, damn, you got to fit this in 22 pages. And then the flow doesn't feel right until you're like really experiencing it. And it's like, oh, snap. I want a 4th issue and I want it longer. And Whatnot's like, yo, let's just do this in 2024.
We already have that one shot. So like we just took that. We're going to have a little bigger 4th issue because a one shot is a little bigger than a regular comic. So yeah, our final issue will be 34 pages, I think it is. It's gonna be bigger than the normal standard size. But yeah, we had to kind of rework the whole back end of our story because it was expanded at the halfway point to be 4 issues instead of 3. So yeah, we had to change the whole, not change, but like massage the whole back half and make it work better over 2 issues versus 1.
Good way to put it.
You've mentioned Ben Templesmith a few times. Tom, you mentioned that you guys have had a friendship for a while. I think to anyone that's listening right now, they probably more so know him as, a New York Times bestseller. He's a multi-award winning comic creator. He's notable works for anyone that might not be familiar. 30 Days of Night and Fell with Warren Ellis and a whole bunch of other things. What are some lessons that you learned from Ben Templesmith? As someone that's a career veteran that's been in the industry, won a few awards. Like, what did he bring to the table in terms of like guiding you guys or making the process easy?
Oh, Ben's a genius. I think we start out with saying that. Like he's there's no independent creator that I've ever seen that is as talented as that gentleman. And his love for comics, it pours through the page. How his brain works is fascinating. You hit him with the challenge, and it's like someone's playing 4D chess. He's calling stuff out that you would never think that unless you were deep into creating comics every single day for like 20 plus years, your brain just wouldn't think like that. But this is so cool about this medium, is that it offers that growth in as it pertains to the creative. And for him, it was like, geez, the thing that made it really easy is like, I just wanted to flex his art. I mean, I think that was the big thing, is like we put a note on the top of the page, like whenever we're in doubt. So remember, we have Ben Templesmith on this, and the visuals are going to be, we can really lean on that, but in a good way. Like not like as a what word, like a.
That's not the wrong word, but for me, like with issue 1 specifically, there were so many times when we were like stressed and wondering like, how do we write this scene? How do we make it fit? And then we sent the script to Ben. He's like, you guys this is here. Here it is.
You did it. You did it. I showed you.
You're panicking. You're worrying. Here's the scene. Here they are. They all fit. They're all talking. Calm down. Keep going.
It's like, here, you can't figure it out. It's because the camera needs to be here. And then all of a sudden we're like, that's our comic book. And that looks really freaking cool. Oh my gosh. Because we're not artists, you know, and we don't think that way. And he's somebody who is like, he's probably the most indie creator I've ever met. Like, as far as he makes his own comics and sells them to his own patrons. Every 3 months, there's a new comic that only his patrons get. Recommend joining his Patreon, by the way, if you're at all a fan of Ben Templesmith. I mean, it's a must. But he's just on a constant grind of creating, and it leads to some of the most fun, collaborative work experience I've ever had. Because when we get those pages, it is like Christmas.
I gotta say too, we've had issue 1 done for a minute because of the delays we already talked about, and so I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was like practicing extra hard in that little downtime we had between issue 1 and 2, but the art that is on deck for the future issues is like even better. Like I'm kind of shocked at how much more I personally love issues 2 and 3, and I'm excited to get issue 4 once we're done scripting that, and once we get some thumbnails and pencils for that in. I don't know. I think each issue of this book gets better and better as it goes, at least in the art, if not the story.
Tell me if you can answer this without spoiling anything. What issue or page are you most excited for readers to get to?
There is a part of issue 1 that we've kept out of we've had friends and family read issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a consistency with their feedback that there is a part of the book that made them feel a certain way.
Okay.
And I feel like we accomplished
We have
something.
not revealed that moment at all. Yeah, we've been very careful. All the marketing and teases we've done have avoided this specific shot.
It's horror sci-fi. So we're looking to ruffle some feathers and make you feel not great sometimes, because it's scary. We're trying to like, it's through a comic. It's kind of tough. When you're watching a movie, you got sounds coming at you and suspense and quick shots. And in a comic, you're seeing the whole page at once. So it's challenging. But if it's messed up enough, it lands in a way that you can't even experience in a theater or, on a screen in general.
There's a couple moments for me in like issues 2 and 3, and I think we've got some cool stuff cooking for like the final climactic battle sequence or whatever is happening in the very end of the final issue. Like, there's some stuff coming that I'm personally excited to see.
It's something that I'm really surprised about. Like, for real, I can't believe how much body horror Whatnot has allowed us to do.
That's part of the like when we covered their debut and their launch, and we talked about Quested and Alpha Betas and Ninja Funk, and Tom and I looked at each other, and Exiled. We looked at each other after that conversation, and we're like, those guys need a horror comic, They don't have anything scary.
It's literally that's what we told them. We're like, guys, you guys really need some horror. Like, where it's like, because first of all those books are great.
They're good.
They were really
They're not
great.
Scary though.
No, not
Exiled's got some moments, but
it's more actiony.
There's a lot of comedy. There's funny books in there. I enjoyed Alpha Betas quite a bit, but
Quested is fantastic.
There's no horror.
But horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, I was looking for the thing that's like, ooh.
So maybe they just allowed us to be really, really off the charts horror scary because we're making up for, every other non-horror title. And there's more now, of course. They got American Psycho over at Massive, and that book's great.
That's crazy good.
From the previews I've seen, the 6 page previews I've seen, I think you guys have already accomplished that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the story unfolds. As far as like the previews, it's got a tinge of mystery to it. I think Ben Templesmith's art is just eerie. It's the color palette is just, it feels claustrophobic. You can already tell there's a mystery to be unraveled in it. So the preview pages look great, and I'm excited to know that there's a fourth issue to expand and let you guys kind of have some breathing room. Tom, I wanted to ask really quick in regard. You mentioned that you've had some family and friends read the book. Specifically, how has your dad reacted to, I guess, to all of this? Like to him being a comic shop manager, like he's got to have a huge sense of pride right now.
Oh, he's so proud, and it's a really special thing to share with him. He's got 2 different variants to debut at MegaCon. He's teamed up with Kyle Willis, who I know you've done stuff with in the past too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he had Kyle Willis cut up 1,000 little pieces of paper and made a huge mosaic.
He had Kyle do one of his infamous mosaics. Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's gonna be
crazy.
We're
gonna show this off here soon. So
it's a really cool video.
Actually, at the time of this, I mean, what I can do is I can actually dump all those videos and you can pick and choose what you want to share. But by the time that this comes out, it actually
The book's out at
the
that
book's
point.
out. So I'm sure they're going to be debuting them. And Kyle actually did some recording of the process. So we incorporated that into his animated video that we're providing. So you get to see him like these like little
So
tiny
cool.
pieces, one by one with glue. And you're like, oh my gosh, man, like you spent so much time on this. That's crazy.
He is insane with it. Speaking of some of the variant and the different covers, this was the last thing I was worried about. I was like, look, if there's one thing that these guys are going to do great, are the cover selections and options. If it wasn't already good enough that you had Ben Templesmith doing the interiors and, the standard cover, you guys have some legends also doing, some other legends doing some of these other covers. You got David Mack doing a cover, a beautiful Kevin Maguire tribute cover that I'm personally looking forward to grabbing. A Johnny Desjardins, is that how you say it?
Desjardins.
Desjardins, yes. A painted cover with him. And then you got a Metroid video game homage cover by your editor, Michael Calero and Trevor Richardson, that I might pick up as well. I know it's like probably asking you to pick, between your children, but do you have a personal soft spot, or do one of these covers stand out to you just a little more than the rest? Do you have a personal favorite?
I do.
What's your favorite?
My favorite for issue 1 is by Casey Parsons. I believe it's cover C. It shows our lead character, Allison, kind of floating in the water, about to get like attacked by some tentacle monster. And you can see some crazy other monsters in the background. There's a lightning storm happening. It just really captures that moment of issue 1 for me in the creepiest way.
And what about you, Tom?
I mean, outside of having Ben T do all the cover A's, of course. I mean,
For sure.
I'm very proud of all that. But as far as other covers, having a David Mack cover, that's pretty freaking cool. Like that's a
Shout
flex,
out
man, for helping make that happen. That's not the only one we got coming, by the way. But yeah, David Mack has been amazing. If you pull up, I think issue 3 right now has some of the strongest covers. We have a cover by Scott Williams. Freaking crazy, dude. Crazy
Kent
cover.
Williams.
Kent Williams.
Scott Williams would be the inker.
Oh, Scott Williams is the inker. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Kent Williams. Sorry, it's been a long day.
So I pulled it up real quick. So you guys have a Mike Mayhew cover. You guys have a Tyler Kirkham cover.
Battle damage, baby. Open to order, by the way. Didn't have to do that. You're welcome.
And an Alex Maleev cover as well.
My favorite artist.
Like I said, I had no doubt that the variant cover game was going to be on point. So congratulations on making that shit happen. Hell yeah.
Yeah, we were definitely really lucky. We got some incredibly talented people who are supporting this IP. Very excited.
How long would you say that you guys have worked on the book, from scripting, revisions, all that, like rough total time, ballpark? A year, 2 years?
It's been like 14, 15 months
It
now, right?
was like the fall 22, I think.
Well, we were,
Right?
It was before New York.
Yeah.
We had
'cause
panels done for New York, which is October 2022.
and we did that interview with Whatnot in like July or August.
I would say it really started in July of 2022. But we're still trucking,
You obviously have a lot of work still ahead of you, right? Like the marketing, wrapping up issue 4, all the things in between there. But I'm more so curious how you view comics personally, like how you enjoy them personally. Like, are you more analytical? Are you a little more selective? And then how maybe some of those lessons have crossed over with what you do with the channel. Like, has that improved how you do things? Has it changed anything? Like,
it's made me read comics so much more like in depth and analytical, and I'm almost taking notes at this point. Like, what happens on a page turn? Are they teasing anything? I notice now when creators, I've seen this before as I'm reading, when like you get the twist of a comic and you see it coming. I think Tom mentioned this before, but it's on the right hand side of the book, and you see the big, splashy plot twist that it's supposed to be a surprise because it's not on the page turn. Stuff like that, and you got to start to develop and kind of observe and take notes on. I'm panicking a little bit because in the last 14-ish months, like Tom mentioned, I've read more than a couple comics that came really close to our idea, and thankfully they veered off in a different direction before I got really worried. But that's another thing I was keeping an eye on while we were making this.
I think having Ben Templesmith just automatically makes it such a unique comic book. I mean, the saying, there's no ideas original, there's nothing new underneath the sun. But I really think it's like the execution, and I think your voices will definitely shine through because you guys are in such a unique and interesting place in the comic book kind of like ecosystem. So even if it's similar to something, I think you guys have enough differences and enough like of a signature that it'll be rock solid. Tom, what about you? I mean, what are some of the big lessons that you came out with that you're applying to, whether you're reading comics personally or how you do things with the channel?
I have a new respect for artists who do like traditional work, painted work, ink work, colorists, letterers. It's amazing how much it could change. We had just a font change that literally made the entire book feel different. It's kind of tough to map those things out. We're so focused on writing a good book, then it's like, wait, just in how like the word bubbles look, it could influence how you feel when you're experiencing them. Also, the editorial process has been very, very exciting to me. We have Michael Calero, as mentioned, but we also have an assistant editor, Rand Bellavia, who is like an uncle. I've known him since I was a child. And his involvement was really great because do you remember like the first time we had a meeting with Rand? He says, guys, I just want you to sit down. I don't want to stress you out, but I reviewed issue 1 and I have some feedback. And that's kind of how it is. Like you get feedback from multiple people. And in this case, we were like kind of testing the waters to see if we wanted to get an assistant editor to kind of help us even more. We're trying to think outside the box here. And the first thing he said to us was, I don't know, should I be saying this?
You go for
Have
it,
I
man.
said this
Issue
before?
Issue 1 is out.
Issue 1's out, so it's too late. So if you don't like it, then it is what it is.
Then it's Rand's fault.
He says, he's like, I love the story. And we're so, so excited to be part of it. I think you ordered the pages wrong. And like my heart sank. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
This was like his audition almost, if you want to call it that. Like, I can help you guys edit. Let me start by completely shuffling every single page in your book around.
He's like, I printed them out so I can experience them in hand. And then I looked at them on the floor and then I moved them around. So it's like your page 16 should be page 4, like stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm sort of like, wait a minute, hold on. We're over here critiquing word bubbles and we're like trying to figure out name changes. And then all of a sudden, wait, we have to like, did we order, is our story, it's not sequential, but maybe it's like really not sequential. And sure enough,
Let's Pulp Fiction this. Let's make it confusing.
But that change, like it just totally racked my brain about how we're writing this book. And it's like, oh, that's like one of the coolest parts about comics is like you can do literally anything and have it be, it's like you can just like totally flip the reader's expectations on like timelines and what you show here, but then what you don't show here and what you save for later. So that's what reading comics is different for me now. I don't know if you feel that same way, but like
every day,
like when I read and experience a book, like I'm giving like, oh wow, they chose not to have the panels end. It's like you know what I mean? Like there's no box in this one page because the art goes through and it's like you see it the first time. And if you don't really think about that as a writer or a creator, it's like, it's a cool effect. But then like when you see it done intentionally, you kind of, and we're always looking like, I'm constantly taking mental notes like, yo, Ryan, look at this page. You do the same thing. You're like, dude, look at this Jimmy T, whatever. Like, look at what they did here. We're like, oh, damn, that gets me thinking.
I sent you a photo of
something else.
Daredevil comic I was reading like a month or two ago. The new issue of Daredevil, for example, has a scene with him like lurking in the vents above another character. And it's just a really cool cut, like a slice of this floor, right? You see what's happening below and him lurking in the vents above, all in one clean image. I'm like, here we go. I was kind of spoiling something that may or may not happen in a future issue, but I'm always looking for different ways to kind of, tell the story.
Right.
Issue 1 obviously comes out the day this interview comes out, I'm assuming by April, it'll be all wrapped up. What does success look like for you guys? Obviously, I think the easy answer would be, sell a bunch of books. Is that the only metric for success for you? Or do you have something personal that you're like, man, as long as XYZ happens, I'm good? Or is it just the opportunity? Like, are you just good enough with the opportunity, or do you have like bigger goals or benchmarks?
My benchmark, it may be different than yours, Ryan, but like, I really want people to read our comic. I want people to open it. A lot of people don't read their comics. It's just a thing. We know it's the case. People like to collect covers. Collecting's awesome. But reading comics is a big part of the problem, is that just in general, people don't read that much. And
we should have done? We should have shipped just a blank book with covers on it.
Yeah.
This is a really cool comic. We totally wrote and drew the inside.
Got you,
Just to see if
motherfucker.
anybody even reads it.
I bet our haters would be like, oh, it didn't even make sense. Like, I don't even understand the character development and the ending wasn't strong. And the thing would have been blank. And I would have gone, yeah, gotcha. Like, I knew it. I knew you didn't even open it. But for me, the goal really is like to show you my cat's butt.
There you go, Butch.
That's my guy.
Surprise, video listeners.
The goal is like I'm hoping that there's peeps who are like, yo, I read that comic. It's a little messed up. I'm excited about the next issue. You know, like that's really that. There's obviously it'd be great to have it do well at LCSs, and I want everyone to be successful who back the book. But like, I want to like for me, Crashdown is about I'm trying to create a story with Ryan that we both enjoy. And I want to get people to read comics more. Comics are so dope. And as soon as you experience reading them more, it unlocks a whole new thing. And if I can contribute to that even a little bit, that's all I need. Money and all that other stuff, that's later, yo. I'm just like, it'd be so cool to just have something that people actually enjoyed and, you know, be able to check out of the chaos of everyday life and, you know, have some time to yourself.
Other chaos.
Yeah.
This might not be the best escape.
Controlled chaos.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, and enjoyment and take some time to yourself. I feel like, you know, you gotta be able to like sit in a room by yourself sometimes for 10 minutes and not fidget on your phone and feel like the world's ending, you know?
You should not be preaching that to anybody.
Well, I do it on my own time.
Yeah.
You may not experience it because you're around, but no, there's plenty of times I'll just be like, you know what?
I'm going to sit down and read and put my phone away and not.
Dude, yo, legit, everyone should be able to just sit in a room by themselves and nothing. No sound, no music. People be losing their minds. They're thinking about what they got to do. They're checking on TV. They're looking on Instagram. It's like, no. You got to be like content with yourself, just like chilling. Enjoy your moments of being alone. And then maybe enjoy that with a story. Use your eyes, you know, your imagination.
All right, Ryan, I got one question for you and then one question for Tom. Ryan, if you could give one piece of advice for any aspiring comic creator that wants to break into the industry, that wants to make their own comic book, is there something that you would say to them, or maybe in particular something that you would have told yourself as you were first starting out to maybe save yourself a headache or just make things easier? What would you say?
Before Tom pulled me into the YouTube channel, like he explained earlier, asking me to help him do videos and all that, before he did that, I was working graveyard at a hotel for freaking 7 years, I think was the total time I spent
This
there.
dude would go a full day's worth of work overnight, get off, drive an hour and a half, sometimes in traffic, to go do a freaking video about
dedication.
Infinity Gauntlet that would get 200 views, and I'd make them record it. We were learning, so like I would do this thing where
we just recorded twice.
No, dude.
Was that what you're talking about? Because we did that a lot.
We did. I hated those. This is what I used to do. I'd be like, all right, we have to hit a timeline. We got to hit a time. I got to get good at doing this under freaking 30 minutes. So I hit a stopwatch, and we'd be going, and all I'd have to do is kind of like I'd have a different look on my face when I knew we'd have to restart. And it got to the point where Russ and Ryan would get so mad. They're like, "Son of a bitch!"
Just from
Tom,
the look on your face.
Are you going to say we got to restart?
I've been up all night.
I'm like, dude, we got to do it over again. We have to get better at this. No one's going to watch it if we don't make it shorter and better. And actually,
nobody watched it anyway. That's is the end of the story.
I actually just figured out my answer. And this is
go. Yeah.
This is my.
I wasn't talking.
This is my my answer for a lot of things.
Right,
I think this actually help. I think this could help some people.
I was stalling for time anyway. I didn't need to say anything at all.
This is for content in general. It's very simple. Do less better. It applies to everything. YouTube, content, writing. Like if you wrote awesome dialogue in the comic, can you make it shorter and better? Because you don't want that word bubble to be huge. If you're going to do a YouTube video unboxing, can you cut out 5 minutes of you like walking around and not on the mic and you're fumbling? Oh, I'll be right back. You can cut that. You can make it shorter. Be respectful of people's time. Make it more quality. And that's since the beginning. Do less better. Every step of the way has never steered me wrong because you're focusing on quality. And I think that's something that if I would have learned that even earlier, I probably would be even better at what we do now.
Well
pretty good
said.
Answer. Not what I was going to say, but that's a pretty good answer.
No, that's a solid answer. And I'm glad that you spoke for the fellow content creators out there. That's a really good piece of advice. Ryan, what about you? What was the piece of advice you had?
I was going to say, while I was toiling away at the hotel for years, I spent a lot of time writing screenplays because I was, killing time, writing stuff for myself, for nobody else. I was scared to even let somebody even read them. It was literally just for like practice, so to speak. I guess that means the best advice I would say is put yourself out there. I would definitely tell that to my younger self, but professionally, if I hadn't had met Tom, if I hadn't had been available to feel uncomfortable in a whole bunch of YouTube videos leading up to this. You know, you gotta put yourself out there. You got to take the risk. You know, you got to feel a little uncomfortable and unsafe and try stuff, which I think is the best. That's the best advice. But also, I think there's just an example. There's an overall feel of like networking and putting yourself out there and talking to people and making relationships and friendships. And you never know what the guy who interviewed you for a bank job like a decade ago. You know, you never know where that random relationship is going to go in your life. So put yourself out there, talk to people. Don't be scared.
You gotta have your wolf pack, man. You know, you gotta have your people you trust, your inner circle, and you gotta protect it. But you also have to know who's in it and know that trust has to be established, and you got to be able to be reliable. And if you surround yourself by good people, like there's going to be times that I'm down, that I'm not able to do all the things that I'm committed to doing, but I know I got him. He's got my back. And it goes the same way. And I can say that about Russ Bright. I can say that about Jeff, Golden Age Guru. I can say that about Heron Heavens, like all these people that are immensely important to this whole thing that we're building here as a channel and as a comic. It's all about the people you surround yourself with, and always like really looking to provide everybody else with that extra 1%. The relationships in my life, they're always 51. 51% is going to them. I'm always looking out a little bit more for other people because, you know, it's all about empathy, and it's all about, doing right by others.
And 51 for me. I'm thinking you're putting like 82 in for me, and I'm contributing like 18.
Yeah. You're working on yours.
I could go less.
You can go
I
less,
could do like 10 probably.
Probably, yeah.
Those are some great pieces of those are words to live by, even outside of content creating and writing comic books. I've got one more question before we wrap up. I promise it's the last one, but it plays to your strength because one of my favorite series of videos to watch from the ComicTom YouTube channel is the trending videos. I watch the trending videos because a lot of times you guys are putting me onto books that, you know, I might have missed. One that in particular that comes to mind is Beneath the Trees.
Heck yeah.
Love that series. I think you guys put it on the radar for me first. And it also reminded me to... Yeah, and it also reminded me to make sure I went ahead and bought the second issue. You know, sometimes it's fun to go ahead and buy.
You hear that? Our trending coverage got him to go buy a comic he wanted to read. Just going to throw that out there.
Department of Truth, Tom's favorite comic.
I saw a comment the other day because I talked to people about getting Department of Truth right now.
It was on the list.
He showed me a comment. He just snapshotted someone's comment on a random thread, and it's like, they said that I was shilling Department of Truth. And I just started laughing. I'm like, shilling Department of Truth? That's like an oxymoron. Like, what? Is that even possible? It's like, oh, Tom's always talking about Spider-Man and Dark Knight Returns. He's shilling Frank Miller. It's like, no, Frank Miller don't need anyone to shill crap. What are you talking about?
Department of Truth. Yeah.
It's Department of Truth, dude.
Department of Truth is like at least a 2-year-old comic book. It's like, well, I'm going to shill.
Maybe they're trying to start a conspiracy, and it's like
maybe
layers,
we created Department of Truth.
This is like really meta now, yeah. Anyway, I say all that to say that Beneath the Trees was a book that I got put onto in part to the YouTube channel and the trending videos. So I want to ask, what is a book that you feel not enough people are reading that they absolutely should go check out?
Oh,
really quick, Ryan, you have a distillery shirt on, and it's been catching my eye because they've been pumping out, like, you know, these first issues have been fantastic. So I want to start with you, and it doesn't have to be distillery. I'm just giving you a compliment on the shirt.
The second they announced distillery, I jumped on board. I'm very much in love with all those creators and what they're doing over there. Something not enough people are reading. Oh man, that's such a good question too. Because all the stuff that I love right now is very much in line, and everyone's on board.
Dude, no one reads comics. What are you talking about? What are you?
Yeah. I don't like the first thing that comes to mind. It's a Marvel book, which is stupid, and I feel like that doesn't count. But like, I don't think enough people are talking about Fantastic Four right now.
Interesting.
It's my favorite Marvel comic. It's the best Fantastic Four has been in over a decade. Like, every writer I've read since Jonathan Hickman has been trying to copy what Jonathan Hickman did like a decade or two ago at this point. I don't even remember how long it's been. It's been a while. And Ryan North is writing Fantastic Four right now, and it is funny, it is charming, it is heartfelt, every issue is amazing. It's blowing me away, and nobody's reading it, it seems like. Because I think a lot of people gave up on Fantastic Four, because it hasn't been that good in recent years. So Fantastic Four is my first instinctual answer.
Okay, that's a good pick. What about you, Tom?
Probably should have thought of an answer, huh?
Here, I'll stall for a little more time for you. And Ryan, you know what? You can't go wrong with any of those Alex Ross covers at all. Like, even if, like, you know, for some reason you choose not to even open up the book. some of those Alex Ross covers are so good it's worth just picking up, the comic for.
I'll give Tom even
itself.
more time because recently there was a recent story arc where the Fantastic Four accidentally opened a portal to a universe where everybody was a dinosaur and they fought a Fantastic Four version of themselves, but as dinosaurs. And one of the covers for that was Alex Ross, who drew a dinosaur Dr. Doom with the regular Dr. Doom riding him like, it's just a T-Rex Dr. Doom with regular Dr. Doom. It's amazing. It's amazing and it's funny and it worked and it made no sense. It's kind of, it's like a throwback comic. It feels like a Silver Age book, which is cool.
That's a good sell.
But it's modern.
I know it just ended, but I want to say Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it did just end,
Benjamin
unfortunately.
Percy, right?
Well, he's still writing it now, but they're about to reboot it with the Hood.
But before all that, it just ended. Like that whole run it's superb. Hulk right now, damn, dude.
PKJ, baby.
That is crazy good. I haven't been this excited about Hulk since Immortal Hulk and the first few issues of Donny Cates' Hulk. Back issues, as far as like older stuff, I'm kind of surprised that I've recommended The Crow to so many people that haven't read it.
Interview's over. Bye.
So like,
great to talk to you.
Yeah. So like, that's definitely something that I want to help change. Everyone needs to read The Crow.
Tom gave me his trade paperback of The Crow when we worked at the bank, and I left it in the backseat of my car for like 5 years, and it got super sun faded, and I never tossed it, never did anything with it.
But
it's sitting on my shelf right now. It's got like sentimental value at this point. I never want to read it at this point because it's been over a decade and it's just sitting there on my shelf.
Solid picks overall. I know I've got some homework. I'm going to check out Hulk and Fantastic Four as well. You guys both.
Those are the two best Marvel books right now. I would have said Hulk, but I don't think
the transformation.
That
I mean, it's always interesting to see how writers handle transformation of Bruce Banner. But like,
I've seen the panels and pages
so
from that,
cool.
and talk about some body gore.
It's wicked, yo! It's so good.
This has been fantastic. First and foremost, if you guys ever want to come back on the show, open door policy for you guys. I'm gonna have links to your socials. I'm gonna have links to the YouTube channel. I have links to previews for Crashdown. I highly recommend and advise, once again, if you're listening to this episode, Crashdown issue 1 is in your local comic shops. Now, do yourselves a favor, pick that up, add the series to your pull list. But Tom and Ryan, do you have any closing remarks? Anything to say to the listeners? Anything you want to close out with before we wrap up?
Yeah, we appreciate all the support. It's really cool that we're able to make this interview happen. Really appreciate you. But yeah, issue 1's out. Issue 2 is available for you to order. Throw Crashdown on your previews pull list. It is $3.99.
Unlike a lot of other books these days, but yeah, we're sticking to the $4 cover price.
I mean, hopefully that continues. I mean, all the way through issue 3, at least it's $3.99. And hopefully we have a second print coming. So that if you missed out on issue 1, and you're starting to order it, you can hopefully get another chance at issue 1, and maybe issue 2. It all depends on what gets ordered, and it's not really up to us. But yeah, no, we really do appreciate all the support and love, and everyone along the way. Everybody we've called to get advice from. It's been a really cool thing. They know who they are. Oh, I have a plug. Can I plug something?
This is the time to do it.
Because I want all your audience to know we're giving away an Amazing Spider-Man 300. It's like a $500 plus book. And all you have to do is sign up to our newsletter on ComicTom101.com. That's it. Like right when you go to the landing page, you type in your email address when the box comes up, and that's all you have to do. You have to buy anything. We used to do a lot of giveaways on the show, and then there were people spamming the comment section, going after our audience's money and committing fraud,
pretending to be you,
pretending to be people from the show. They do like ComicTom 101 dot or ComicTom 101 space dot, and they'd be like, hey, you won, send us $50. And so we had to stop doing giveaways like that. So if you are interested in ever winning one of our giveaways, which we do them monthly on the show, and this month is an ASM 300 first print, all you have to do is sign up to the newsletter. And also when Crashdown comes out, you'll get an email about it, but I try to keep it very light. I don't want to spam people, I don't like getting a bunch of emails myself, so I try to be very reserved with what we send out. But you'll keep up with us, with all the stuff we do, and you'll be entered to win not just our ASM giveaway, but every giveaway going forward.
My man Tom is a salesman, and that sounds like too much of a good deal to pass up. And if there's one thing I know the Short Box Nation enjoys more than listening to awesome interviews like this, it's free comics, all right? So take Tom's advice. Like I said, I'm going to have links to the website so you can sign up for the newsletter in the show notes. But besides that, listeners, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment, review, hit me up via email at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. I've got a really fun follow-up interview scheduled next week with Declan Shelby. All right, that's right. Declan Shelby had an awesome
Time
interview.
before time, man. I love that book.
Yeah, exactly. He's got he's the writer of the new Thundercats series that's launching via Dynamite with artist Drew Moss. If you heard our episode with Ben Kingsbury last week or whatever, 2 weeks ago, you know that is one of the most hyped and one of those books that retailers are looking forward to as well as fans. So I got Declan Shelby coming on the show next week, so you don't got to wait long for another awesome interview. Besides that, you guys take care, and I'll catch you next week. All right? Peace. There you have it, Shortbox Nation. That's the end of the show. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks for being here. And a special shout out if you made it this far. If you enjoyed this episode and you have some thoughts or comments that you want to share with us, write us at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. And if you really like this episode, help us spread the word. Share this episode with a friend or someone you know that loves comics as much as we do. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It takes 2 minutes tops, and it would mean the world to us. So leave us a review. Now, if you want more content like bonus episodes or perks like early access and commercial-free episodes, and in some cases, free comic books, consider joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/theshortbox. It's an easy and very affordable way to support the show and get rewarded for being a fan. Once again, sign up at patreon.com/theshortbox. Speaking of our Patreon community, I want to give a big shout out to our current members, including Adam Chitani, Tony A. Uppy, RC Gammett, Blake Simone, Blythe Brumleaf, Bo Evers, Brian Brumleaf, Chad Landenberger, Chris Hacker, Chris Jinks, David Morales, Triple D Mystic, Dominique Jackson, Errol White, Edbot 5000, Generation Jaguar, Greg Hopkins, Greg Lichtig, Henry Hernandez, Herschel, Hydrus 96, a.k.a. Mac, Jay Sinner, Jeff Fremad, Jerome Cabanatan, Joshua Miller, Justin McCoy, Kara Reichardt, Cassie Whitley, Corey Tordeson, Matt Godwin, Amanda Marin, Nick Wagner, Podcasters Assemble, Stephen Gammett, T-Mix, The Wait For It Podcast, Thomas Pandich, Thurian, Trey Namo, Walter Gant, Warren Evans, and Zach Armour. Thanks again to everyone that listens and supports this show. Be sure to come back next week for a new episode. And most importantly, take care of yourselves. Read a good comic and continue to make mine and yours Shortbox. I'll catch you soon. Peace.